Hi, welcome you all to this special class on Unacademy Unlock YouTube platform. Today, as a part of our special class, we will be discussing industry topic which we started yesterday, and of course, we will be proceeding with other topics also. Today, we'll also look at this topic unemployment, employment, and unemployment also. Yes, good morning to all of you. So proceeding further, before we start our topic, as usual, let us look at the important courses that are offered on an academy platform. Uh, as you can see here on the screen also, you can crack a UPSC CSE examination with India's largest learning platform, an academy. You can get a plus subscription and access unlimited live and recorded courses from India's best educators also. You can get subscription. And here are the best educators here. You can see all of them on the screen here. You can see so many of them experts in different fields, right? And then proceeding further, uh, today, as I said, our topic will be Indian economy. The subtopic is industry and then unemployment also. The achievements of educators, I don't think we need those things now. You can join an academy telegram channel as well as a community link also. Achieve your exam goal with a 20% off on all subscriptions. And as you know, this is ending today at 12 noon. So hurry and take subscription. You can use our code PKS10 to get the subscription and also get a discount, 10% discount. Very, very important because it's only in under half an hour and the subscription will be over. So hurry and take a subscription. And apart from the study material that is being given to you, you will also be getting prelims practice booklets also. There will be at least 10,000 plus questions curated by the experts, and 10 printed practice booklets worth 75,000 also. And you will also get previous year questions. This offer is valid only till 30th of April. This is valid for both Iconic and Plus subscriptions for 1 year and above. You can subscribe now and using our code PKS10. And then we have this examination UPSC CSE Combat on 1st May 2022 on Sunday at 11 a.m. 56 questions will be there. You have to answer them in 60 minutes. And you can win rewards worth 4 crores. Questions are curated by top educators of an academy. And live test with gamified experience, real-time ranking to check your performance. And you can see it on the screen here. Those who come out in top 1 to 3 ranks, they will be getting 90% scholarship, almost free of cost. Between 4 and 10, 75% scholarship. Between 15 and 11 and 50, 50% scholarship, and between 51 and 500, 25% scholarship. This examination is available both in Hindi and English. And you can take admission into this course by using our code PKS10 also. Then you have this interview program also, free interview program, last night, wherein last year 170 toppers have been selected from this program. The training will be by experts. You will have gap analysis. It is free for all eligible aspirants who are attending UPSC interview. You will have flexible schedules and there will be mock interviews with experienced panel also. You will also get previous year's transcripts. And what are the benefits of Iconic subscription? You have a personal coach and one-on-one live mentor. You also have a study planner. You have mains question and answers practice. And you will also have open house with educators. And this is what we are talking about. Get admission for this plus subscription as Iconic subscription today itself before 12 o'clock. Right? These are the prices, and you can apply our code also. and you don't have to worry about monetary aspects also, because you can get easy EMIs also with this you know, with an academy. You have EMIs wherein there is no interest also, so there is no interest also, interest free, and the loan will be approved in 2 hours. There will be minimal paperwork and flexible tenures. So this is what we say about the courses that are offered on an academy platform. So let us come back and look at what we were discussing yesterday. As I said yesterday, we were looking at this industry topic, if you remember, and we were looking at the problems faced by Indian industry. Right? The point that we were discussing yesterday was this seventh point, if you remember. The seventh point is the one which we were discussing yesterday. Failure of the government to enter into international treaties and agreements. If we have to realize our trade potential, we must enter into as many free trade agreements with as many countries as possible, because as all of us know, this World Trade Organization WTO has not been successful in ensuring free and fair trade among the countries around the world. Failure of this World Trade Organization has led to what we call this coming up of these customs unions, wherein some countries come together and establish free trade area among themselves to further expand the trading between the countries. As we keep on saying all the time, at the end of the day, we say that ultimately trade is an engine of growth. Industrial sector growth will depend only on our ability to expand our trade. This is why our ability to ensure rapid industrial growth is limited by our inability to enter into these international treaties and agreements. As we spoke about this in this RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Treaty, India got a good opportunity. The question was asked in our, if I am not wrong, in our General Studies Paper 2. And India has not been able to come to an agreement with these countries regarding tariffs and everything else, because of which ultimately India decided not to become part of this treaty. And retrospectively, if you look at it, India would have been better off signing those treaties than becoming isolated. That is where we are living in the age of globalization, and it is imperative that we must enter into as many treaties as possible. We must become part of globalization rather than going against the winds of globalization. And that is where we talk about the reasons for our inability to ensure rapid industrial growth also. Next, another reason is that depreciation of currency is making imports costlier. For example, in 1991, when we opted for liberalization, privatization, and globalization, the market value of a dollar in terms of rupees was around 32 rupees. In the last 30 years, it has depreciated to almost 80 rupees. Obviously, what happens when the currency depreciation takes place? Automatically, your imports will get costlier. You will face a balance of payment crisis, which further puts huge amount of burden on the currency also, domestic currency. And what is the consequence? Your imports will become costlier. This is where the problem is. When the imports become costlier, automatically the prices of the goods that you are producing in your country would also be high. When the prices are high, as we studied, international trade is mostly carried out according to David Ricardo, one of the topmost economists, classical economists, mostly because of this what we call a relative advantage. When these imports become costlier, you will be losing advantage over other countries which are exporting similar products as you are. And that is where India is also facing a problem. Both the domestic prices as well as export prices also will go up, which makes it at the domestic level, when the prices go up, it results in inflation. It adversely impacts the standard of life of the people also. As you can see here, nowadays our WPI is almost 17-18%, and the CPI is also 7%, which is very very high. And one of the reasons is this depreciation of currency. Right. Next important problem with our industrial sector is bureaucratic red tapeism. You want foreign investment to come to your country, and you want the foreigners not to face any kind of problems when they come and set up their industries in the country. And as you can see, our Prime Minister keeps on visiting many foreign countries, requesting them to come and invest in our country. He would promise them a red carpet welcome, but when they come to the country, what they get in reality is what is called red tapeism, and this is what most of the foreign investors have complained about. They said that the governments always promise them this red carpet welcome, but when they come to the country, they will get only red tapeism. Too many rules and regulations, too much of a bureaucratic red tapeism, too much of hurdles will create problems not only for domestic as well as foreign producers also. That is the reason why in the recent times what we have seen is that most of our domestic producers are in favor of investing in foreign countries than in our own country also, thanks to this bureaucratic red tapeism. Next, next problem is the failure of regulatory authorities to prevent the emergence of monopolies in the market. This is another problem that we are facing now in our manufacturing sector or industrial sector. What we are witnessing in these sectors is it is mostly monopoly, and this monopoly, right? Yeah, it's a very good question, Ritu. China keeps its currency at very less value. Why it does not affect China? Why? Because Ritu, China mostly produces all the goods within the country, right? So what happens is that what China imports from foreign countries is relatively less. So that is the reason why what happens is that when they depreciate their currency, when they deliberately reduces the value of their currency, their exports would become cheaper. Whereas in India, we don't have those raw materials, and we don't have the manpower and everything else. For most of the things, we depend on what we call those foreign countries. That is the reason why China, make in China, is what made in China is what you find almost everywhere else, right? And you must remember, Ritu, in China that China artificially reduced the cost of the inputs. For example, land in China is free of cost because the government decides that they are coming out with a factory at a particular place, and it is a dictatorship. So the government will tell the residents, they'll give them choices. The government either vacate the land or or forget about your life. What do you want? Either land or life. That is the kind of democracy that China has. So we cannot compare, right? So coming back here, regulatory authorities to prevent the emergence of monopolies in the market. In India, in the last few years, what we have witnessed is these monopolies in our markets, especially in core sectors. What we are witnessing is monopoly. For example, take the case of petroleum, iron and steel, power. In these core sectors, what we are witnessing is the emergence of monopolies in the market. Obviously, this monopoly in any form can be very problematic for any country, and we must ensure better competition, because through only better competition, our industrialists can come out with better innovations and discoveries that can help in reducing the cost of production and also in providing quality services to the people. Unfortunately, we have not been able to prevent this emergence of monopolies. This is another problem that we face. Next one is jobless growth. The basic problem here is that whatever the growth that is taking place in the country, you know, it is not able to create what we call employment for people. That is where the problem is. We'll talk about this employment, as part of the next topic that we will be discussing. Simply, our inability to create sufficient employment for a growing population is what that is resulting in what we call jobless growth. Even the growth is taking place, it is only what we call jobless growth. And this is increasing, resulting in increase in inequalities also. On top of it, 2 years of corona meant that maximum number of people had lost their jobs also. 2 years of corona. Next important problem, as you can see it on screen here, is high cost of land acquisition due to implementation of this land acquisition laws. Under the land acquisition laws or bills passed by various state governments, if you have to acquire land in rural areas, you have to provide at least 4 times the market price. And if you have to acquire land in urban areas, you have to give them 2 times the market price. Already on top of it, the market price is so high because of the scarcity of land. On top of it, if you have to provide that much of compensation, it becomes almost impossible. As I have just mentioned, in case of China, these land costs are zero. For example, Apple goes to China and says that we want to set up a factory in your country. And China says that no problem, you come and set up your factory. We'll give you everything. That is the reason why, on an average, China attracts at least $300 billion of foreign direct investment every year. On the other hand, if you look at India, in 30 years combined together, we did not attract that much of FDI also. That is where the problem is. Land acquisition. Not only the problem is related to the high cost of land, the problem is also related to the ownership of the land. In India, as we discussed with agriculture yesterday, we have seen fragmentation of land. This fragmentation of land meant that there are so many owners, and the documentation is also not proper. We don't have any proper documentation of land holdings also. And what is the outcome here? The outcome here is that it becomes almost impossible for industrialists to acquire land, and that is where it becomes much more problematic. This is another problem. Next one is absence of skilled manpower. I think we have discussed this yesterday also as part of one of the problems. For any industrial sector or for service sector, the most important input is manpower. Unfortunately, in India, as the question that is being repeatedly asked by UPSC in our Indian economy mains general studies papers, we have not been able to transform our demographic bulge into demographic dividend. We have a huge amount of population, 140 crore people, which is very huge, which is almost equal to 18% of world population. But how many of them are skilled? Going by the statistics of Government of India only, only 2% of our population can be called skilled population who can get what we call productive employment. Remaining 98% simply do not have any skills. Most of them are unskilled or semi-skilled. You can say unskilled and semi-skilled. On the other hand, a country like South Korea, 98% of population is skilled population. Why? Why we have not been able to transform our demographic dividend into demographic budget to demographic dividend, for the simple reason that we have failed to invest in our education system. Simply, one of the major failures of our liberalization process is our failure to invest in social sector. Another reason why we have not been able to attract foreign investment is another reason why we have not been able to increase our contribution of manufacturing sector to the GDP is this our inability to attract foreign investment in manufacturing sector. Most of the foreign investment, you must remember, last year also economic survey pointed out that we have attracted almost $80 billion of FDI into our country during the corona pandemic year, which is very, very good. But what is the problem? Almost 90% of this FDI went into only service sector. That is where the problem is. Maximum amount of FDI went only to service sector. Manufacturing sector has failed to attract foreign investment. That is where the problem is. And you require, at the end of the day, as we keep on saying, the only way a country can progress is through investment. There is no foreign investment. Domestic investment also faces a lot of problems. And the government also failure to increase its capital expenditure. But the situation definitely is changing. Next important reason why we are not able to increase our output of manufacturing sector is our failure to invest in research and development. I'll give you one very good example here to understand the importance of this research and development. Take the case of China and India. Till 2000s, China has benefited from globalization. How? It was mostly exporting what we call cheap manufacturing goods, handmade products. It was using the conditions in its country. That is the reason why China had become what we call the export capital of the world in terms of these manufactured goods, handmade products, small scale, which do not require much of technology. But China had realized that this can only be temporary in nature, because other countries immediately can join this bandwagon and they would lose their relative advantage which they have enjoyed. That is where we talk about vision. So what did China do? Slowly it has expanded. It has expanded into what is called high-end products, especially technology related products. For example, China had started making investments hugely in technology, high-end technologies, whether it is biotechnology, whether it is pharmaceutical sector, whether it is electrical goods and services, electrical goods, whether it is artificial intelligence, whether it is robotics, whether it is 5G technologies. It started making huge investments, and that is the reason why now China's export basket has completely changed. It is giving nightmares to America and Europe also. China's 5G technologies are giving nightmares to Europe and America also. Its robotics and artificial intelligence is giving tough competition to Japan and other countries around the world. On the other hand, come back to India and look at India, what we have done. The basic problem with India is that Indians are very what we call complacent. We are not, we don't have that kind of competitive spirit, especially our industrial sector. We are very complacent, whereas our politicians simply never had that kind of vision also. So when we started this liberalization, privatization, globalization, what did we do? We always believed in catching those low-hanging fruits. Immediately, we had India had the advantage of this IITs and a good number of engineering and other professional colleges. So what we have done is that we benefited out of it, especially our software. It does not require much of investment. What is needed for a software company? Do they require a huge amount of buildings or a huge amount of infrastructure? Not at all. What is required is a laptop, like what I am doing right now in front of sitting in front of laptop, and internet broadband connection. That is itself is required. Nothing else is required. So that is the reason why Indian companies mostly invested in this low cost and high profitable technologies. So software, thanks to India's good industrial base that was created as part of our planning process, India could become a leader in the software services. It continued to do so in 2000s also, and we have moved rapidly. We were achieving 9% growth rate also. Obviously, when this kind of growth is taking place, suddenly people's needs also increase. As we study, the question that was also asked this year in your Indian economic glimpse also, people started substituting inferior goods with better goods. As our income increases, the demand for inferior goods will come down. For example, if you are eating ragi and barley and jowar, if your income increases, you will be eating rice. If your income increases, you will be having ghee in your roti. If your income increases, you will move from two wheelers to four wheelers cars. You move from necessities to luxuries, comforts, and comforts to luxuries. And that is what exactly happened in India. With such a huge amount of population, even if a small percentage of population demands these goods, it will result in huge amount of overall demand for the industrial sector, automobiles. So this automobile sector benefited immensely especially from 2004 around onwards, around 2004 2010. This was the period when the country witnessed huge amount of boom in real estate and automobile sector. And what did these automobile companies, car manufacturing companies do? They made a huge amount of profits. The profits running into thousands of crores of rupees also. And they made huge amount of profits. And what did they do with the profits? In countries like United States of America, industrial sector, whenever they earn profits, as a matter of rule, as a matter of propriety, as a matter of principle, they invest a good amount of those profits in research and development. Whereas in India, India was mostly a business country, but not a manufacturing. We don't have the attitude of an industrialist. When Ratan Tata was asked, "What is the difference between you and Mukesh Ambani?" He was asked, "What is the difference between you and Mukesh Ambani?" The reply of Ratan Tata was beautiful. He said that I am an industrialist and Mukesh Ambani is a businessman. And that is what the problem with India. In India, we have more number of businessmen than industrialists, entrepreneurs. An industrialist, focuses on, the much larger picture, how to produce more, how to improve the technologies, how to improve the efficiency, and then how to earn profits. Whereas a businessman is not at all concerned about all these things. A businessman is concerned only about buying something at low prices and selling them at a higher prices. And that is what Ratan Tata was referring to. In India, we have only mostly businessmen but not industrialists. So why are we talking about all these things? When this automobile sector earned a huge amount of profits running into thousands of crores of rupees. What did they do with that money? What did they do with that money? They have used all that money for literally consumption purposes. They have used that money to give huge amount of dividends to their shareholders, so that the share prices will go up. The market valuation of their company will be very, very high. No problem. That is fine. And not only that, they have also used that money to give salaries to their employees. The salaries have increased to obscene levels. The CEOs and their directors, they started giving huge amount of salaries for themselves, right? And then they did not use the money at all. They did not use the money at all to invest in research and development. Around the same time, Elon Musk had come out with this idea of electric cars, and he invested heavily in research and development. And you can see right now what is happening there, right? His company had become one of the richest in the world. He had become one of the richest persons in the world. That is what we call entrepreneur. That is what we call industrialists. Whereas all our car manufacturing companies, they were sitting on their laurels and they were using the money. They were using the money to the profits and everything to give more salaries and more dividends to their shareholders. Now they are facing tough competition. When Elon Musk wants to come to India to set up his electric car manufacturing factory in India, all our domestic industrialists have strongly opposed it, saying that it can result in imperialism, so on and so forth, patriotism, and so on and so forth. They said that they wanted to invest. They asked the government of India Whatever the incentives that you want to give to Elon Musk, you also give it to us. The question that we are asking here is that why they have wasted more than 15 years of time. That is the problem with India. We simply don't have this culture of investment in research and development. Mukesh Ambani does not mind spending 2,500 crores of rupees on the marriage of his son and daughter, but he would think 100 times before investing a single rupee in research and development. That is the difference. They don't have to invest in research and development. Please remember why. Because what we have is only crony capitalism. They can still earn their profits running into lakhs of crores of rupees. They can still become richest persons in the world. You can see last year Adani has earned at least 10 times more money than Elon Musk or anyone else, the topmost billionaires in the world. Why? Because you can earn all that kind of money without coming out with any innovations or research and development. That is where the problem is right now. Adani, they are saying that they will be investing heavily in this green technologies. Let us wait and see how they are going to do it. Coming back here, what we have said is that why China and America are progressing so rapidly. China has invested a lot in research and development. Chinese government, they had invested billions and billions of dollars, because of which you could see that right now China has almost a monopoly over these high-end products. The export basket of China has completely changed. Whereas in America, being a true capitalist country, you can always find that the industrialists in America are more than willing to invest in research and development. In India, neither the government, what is the amount of money that the government of India has allocated for research and development? It will be peanuts. Even peanuts also will be a big amount. Why? Because if we have more money, what our political parties will do? They will give more subsidies to the people, give more freebies to the people, because that will help them to win elections, not any research, in any investment in research and development. The government itself has accepted. For example, as Economic Survey has pointed out, in Economic Survey we have one full chapter on this research and development, last year's Economic Survey. It has pointed out that the number of patents of India of 1.4 billion people, the total number of patents of 1.4 billion people in the country is less than the patents acquired by a small R&D firm in America. A small private sector enterprise in America which is involved in research and development has got more patents than a country with 1.4 billion people, which includes both the government as well as private sector. You can understand, there is no better example than this to find out about research and development. This year's budget talks about research and development, but as usual, we as usual we spend more time in talking than in doing the things. We spend more time in talking than doing the things. Budget has come out with high sounding words, but at the end of the day, in the 40 lakh crore budget that the finance minister has presented, he can find out how much amount of money will be actually spent by the government of India on research and development. It is not even peanuts also. It is only peanut, not even nuts also. That is where the problem is. Without investing in research and development, you cannot come out with new technologies. You cannot come out with new innovations. That is the reason why IC over India in India is very, very high. Incremental capital output ratio. It is 4.2:1, whereas in America it is 1:1. With so much of inefficiency, is it possible for us to increase our exports and trade? Obviously not. Now, these are all the problems that we have seen in our industrial sector. These are all the problems that we have seen. Let us see the solutions. What is being done? What is being done? The government of India had come out with so many programs in the last 8 years or so that BJP has been in power. It has come out with so many programs, flagship schemes like Make in India, Skill India, Startup India, Stand Up India, and we have the recent Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? Atmanirbhar Bharat 1, 2, 3, 4, and we also have this schemes also to give a major boost to the manufacturing sector. You know, other incentives like providing subsidized credit to the industrial sector, PLI scheme, production linked incentives were also implemented. The government also has provided input tax credit on GST to promote exports and make them competitive in the international market. In the GST itself, we have this component of input tax credit, so that there will not be any what we call double taxation, and this is also provided by the government of India to improve our export competitiveness also. Then, you know, the government also had started major investment in the infrastructure sector with the Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti scheme and other schemes, to ensure better coordination between various sectors involved in infrastructure. If you happen to see, we have seen some of these schemes as part of our discussions of economic survey also in our special classes. You can go through all of them also. We have done all these things, right? Wherein you want to ensure proper coordination between railways, roadways, airways, and waterways. Gati Shakti. And another major initiative is that RBI, during this whole Corona crisis, RBI has adopted what we call easy money policy. It has kept the repo rate and reverse repo rate at very low levels, in spite of the fact that inflation is also, making a comeback. Especially consumer price index. It has crossed RBI's band of 6% also. Still, RBI has resisted the temptation of increasing the interest rates, so that it will provide a good policy environment, conducive policy environment for the industrial sector, for the manufacturing sector to get loans. The PLI scheme also, as we have mentioned, production linked incentives. So, what else should be done? What needs to be done? This is very important for us. We have seen what has been done by the government, in terms of the schemes and the policies and programs that were initiated by the government. Now let us look at what needs to be done. What should be done? What needs to be done? Let us look at what should be done. Please remember again, all these things you have to write in your examination. Some of the questions can be asked in your claims also. Which among the following, are the measures to boost, manufacturing sector investment in India? They can ask you. First and foremost, as I said, reduce very high and unsustainable tax rates. The GST rates are very, very high. I gave you the example. Henry Ford, Motors had left India. They had invested around $2 billion in their factory in Chennai. And after that, they said that they would be treating those $2 billion as a sunk cost, and they were leaving the country. And what they have said is that it is very difficult to do business in India because of a highly unsustainable tax rates. Very high and unsustainable tax rates. As it is said that 2022, this customs and excise duty tax regime is almost the same as what it was in pre-1991 levels. In the last 80 years or so, the government of India has increased the taxes on customs and excise duties to increase its revenues. The basic problem is that the taxation policy is looked at by the government only through the prism of raising revenues. It is not looking at the taxation policy to to make it industry friendly. The government must reduce. The government must believe that it must get more tax revenues through tax buoyancy than by raising the tax rates. Almost, we are not attracting any foreign investment, direct investment in the industrial sector, manufacturing sector, because of high and unsustainable tax rates. On top of it, taxes on fuel, they are going crazy now. They went beyond all levels of what we call common sense. Both central and state governments are competing with each other to exploit people through taxes on fuel. Obviously, the taxes on fuel, a basic common sense in economics tells you that these taxes on fuel are the ones which add more to the cost of production, because the raw material is available in one part of the country, the production will be taking place in another part of the country. And what you have to do? You have to transport this raw material from one part of the country to the other part of the country. Obviously, it requires this fuel. The transportation costs are very, very high, prohibitive. That is resulting in a very unsustainable tax regime in India. And what did the government of India do? Please remember, the government of India had come out with a very significant reform in 2019, just before the corona has started. In 2019, the government of India had cut down drastically these corporate taxes, and the government had provided a relief to the tune of 1.5 lakh crores to the corporate sector, thinking that they would invest that surplus in their own units, but that was not done. Corporate sector never really bothered to invest that money. So, right, right, what you are saying, Santani, what are you saying? Is there anyone behind me doing strange things? Is this what you are saying? Is there anyone behind me? Don't worry, there is no one behind me, right? So you don't have to worry. But that is good, right? There is no one behind me, so you don't have to worry. I am the only one who is there in the room. Okay? Right. Anyway, focus on what we are doing. There is no one behind me, right? So coming back here, exactly, Anand. So don't worry. But it is good. So did anyone see something behind me? Apart from okay, what you must be remembering is that this UPSC examination preparation is not exciting prospect. Whatever I am teaching you right now has been asked, will be asked in your examination, right? That is what you have to remember. Economy will always be what you call this kind of subject only. So don't worry. If you find it boring, what can I do? I cannot do much, right? But this is what it is. They are asking mostly these questions only. In the examination, you cannot say that the questions are very boring, so I will not answer them, right? So coming back here, let us not distract our attention from what we are doing here. Whatever we are doing here is very, very important from your examination point of view, right? I am coming to that one. GK, I am coming to that one. The next point we are talking about here is end cross subsidization in the power sector. As we have discussed yesterday, every state government was giving huge amount of power subsidies. Every state government was giving huge amount of power subsidies. This power subsidies given by state governments for agriculture sector. Farmers are getting free power for 9 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours to 18 hours. And they are using this in an indiscriminate manner. It will cost a huge amount of money to generate this electricity. Please remember, right? How to enroll this batch for 2023 UPSC. This is not a batch prachi here. I'm not. This is not an A plus course. This is only YouTube class. Right? It is a free class. You can watch all these classes free of cost. Prachi, you don't have to pay anything. Right? This is a free class only. So, coming back here, you must have seen today's Indian Express newspaper. It has spoken about the country facing a severe power shortage. The power shortage is running into millions of units also. Millions of units of power shortage. Why? Because these thermal power companies, they simply do not have money to invest. Why? Because the distribution companies, discoms, are giving free power to the agriculture sector. They are giving free power to the agriculture sector. The state governments are giving free power to the agriculture sector. So the state governments simply do not have enough money with themselves to invest in production of this power, electricity. They don't have money. And what is happening here is that the state governments and the discoms will have to do something to get money out of sale of electricity, because agriculture sector, they are giving it free of cost. So what they are doing is that they are taxing this industrial sector with high power tariffs. For example, for industrial purposes and commercial purposes, for example, for our institute in Delhi, in my institute, per unit of electricity, I pay around 12 or 13 rupees per unit of electricity, because commercial usage. And similarly, if I have manufacturing a company, manufacturing industry, I will be paying 12 or 13 rupees, right? No, not GK. Government will not pay anything. Government will not pay. Government will not pay the subsidy, right? That is the reason why we have these programs like Uday. They take loans, to cover up this subsidy. Please remember, the government should not have money also. They take loans. That is the reason why the government of India from time to time comes with these schemes like Uday 1 and Uday 2 and other things. These are all part of power sector reforms which you will be studying in a more detailed manner as part of your economy. Since right now our focus is on industrial sector, let us not digress to other aspects. So what is happening is that when this industrial sector is provided power at such a very high rates, automatically what happens? The cost of production will go up. When the cost of production is going up, your products will become less competitive. For example, this is what the textile sector always complains. You take the case of the textile sector, and you take the case of our textile industries in India, jute, and they face tough competition from Bangladesh. And the basic problem with India is that they have so many disadvantages. One, and first and foremost, our these tax rates are very high. Second, they get electricity with such a very high rates. Automatically, the cost of production will be very high. As I said, it is about relative advantage only. It is about relative advantage only, and we are losing that relative advantage. So the governments must end this cross subsidization. They are subsidizing agriculture sector, and they are trying to get the money from industrial sector. We don't know whether agriculture sector is benefiting out of this or not, but what we definitely know is that it is adversely impacting our manufacturing sector. That is the reason why, as part of one of the solutions, what we have mentioned here is that we must end this cross subsidization in our agriculture sector, in the power sector. We must charge money from the farmers so that we can reduce the cost of production of electricity for the manufacturing sector. Next solution is that we have hundreds of schemes. The government is spending a lot of money on all these schemes. Please remember, again, the same question was asked in our mains also, Indian economy, for 15 marks. What we have is that we have spoken about so many schemes, if you remember. We have spoken about Make in India. We have spoken about Startup India. We have spoken about Skill India. We have spoken about Stand Up India. We have also this Mudra scheme. We have schemes like Swanidhi scheme. And we have all these PLI schemes. Now what is happening is that with so many schemes, what is happening here is that it is only resulting in duplication of work, wastage of resources, and failure of all these schemes. The resources are very thinly distributed for all these schemes. At the end of the day, you don't achieve anything. What has been suggested is that integrate all these schemes into one and allocate significant amounts of money and ensure that these interlinkages are taken care of. That is what the government must do. Please remember, these are all very simple but very effective solutions. What is required is common sense only. Beyond that, nothing else is required. Why should we have hundreds of schemes for only one sector, industrial sector? What is the need for having hundreds of schemes? Integrate all of them and come out with only one scheme and make sure that you are allocating resources only for this one scheme, so that we will not be wasting the money. Next one is the government must be proactive in signing more FTAs. This is what our Commerce Minister kept on saying all the time. This is what our Industrial Minister also kept on saying all the time. It is time. The time has come for India to be more proactive and more aggressive in signing more FTAs. And that is the reason why recently, when the British Prime Minister had come to India, both the countries have pledged to increase the trade between the countries to very high levels, right? And this is possible only when you enter into more free trade agreements areas, free trade agreements with countries around the world. As I said, we have lost a golden opportunity in the form of RCEP, but instead of feeling bad about that, we have to be proactive and we have to sign more free trade agreements. That is where trade can become an engine of growth. Now, another important thing that we have to look at is inflation. WPI, Manufacturing Price Index, WPI, is very high in India at this point of time. Last year, our exports were almost $420 billion, which is a very significant achievement. Can we have the same situation being repeated this year also? Very unlikely, because this manufacturing index, WPI, Wholesale Price Index, is almost 18% now. So we must reduce this inflation. The government must take measures to reduce inflation. On top of it, if you happen to read the newspapers, I'm sure you will be reading the newspapers. All of you will be reading the newspapers. On top of it, what the government is thinking about is making changes to this GST. The government is planning to remove this 5% and make it 8%. And the government is planning to move most of the items from 18% to 28%. If at all, this is done by the government, then it will be sounding death knell for our industrial sector development. The governments cannot become greedy. The problem is that in 2017, when we started implementing this GST, the central government has promised the state governments to fully compensate for any loss of revenue with the implementation of GST for a period of 5 years. But unfortunately, in those 5 years, almost 2 years were taken up by Corona. So the state governments have requested the central government that you please extend this compensation period to another at least 2 years to compensate for this Corona crisis. The central government is not willing to extend this to 2 more years. central government does not want to share more revenues with the state governments. So, the idea here is that the GST Council, which consists of the ministers from the central government cabinet and also the finance minister of the states, will be meeting very shortly, and they will be thinking about how to overcome this loss of revenue with the implementation of GST. And the state governments are demanding that either the central government can increase, can extend this GST compensation period for at least another 2 years, or let the GST Council increase the rates. And if the GST Council is opting for increasing the rates, as I said, it will be very uncomfortable for the industrial sector, because already, as I said, the tax rates in India are very high, right? Already the tax rates are very high. On top of it, if you increase more, as I said, GST Council is planning to remove this 5%, the lowest slab, and move it to 8%, and shift most of the items from 18% to 28% to generate revenues for the state governments. It can be devastating also. Let's hope that GST Council will not take such radical decisions. On the one hand, when we are talking about reducing the tax rates, you cannot have a situation where you will be increasing the tax rates to increase your revenues. Next, a solution that we are talking about here is, first, then focus on removing infrastructure bottlenecks in the port sectors, airways, and communication transportation sectors. That is the reason why we have come out with this Gati Shakti scheme to ensure interlinkages and also to remove bottlenecks. But again, coming out with the schemes is very easy, but implementing them will be very difficult. That is the reason why the focus should be on implementation. To be fair to the government right now is focusing on implementation, on realizing outcomes and outputs. But what is being done is not sufficient. Take the case of port sector. Our loading and unloading in India, it takes a huge amount of time compared to a country like United States of America. In United States of America, you can get your product out of the port within 24 hours. In India, it will take at least 27 days. The same work, it will take 27 days in India. And you know the why? Our ICOR is very high. So you have to overcome all these infrastructure bottlenecks. Then only you can improve, right? Then the government has to come to the rescue of these small scale industries. Recently, the government of India has come with so many measures for MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises. But a lot more needs to be done also. Why? Because on the one hand, the government must look at how to reduce their cost of production. On the other hand, the government also should look at how to make them more efficient. The PLI scheme and other schemes are necessary, but you need to do more also to make sure that the small scale sector becomes the engine of growth. Why? Because these MSMEs are the ones which provide employment to the people. They are the ones which can ensure what we call job-led growth also, right? Another important solution that we are talking about here is, the government must focus on improving ease of doing business, at the ground level. Right now, what is happening is that Niti Aayog, as all of you know, comes out with the rankings of the state governments in terms of ease of doing business index. And these rankings, as we know, are completely hollow, because at the ground level, the situation is totally different. Those states which rank at the top, are not the ones which are attracting any investment, which clearly shows that there is some problem with these rankings. That is the reason why you need to implement real reforms, to invite investment, to attract investment, rather than the peripheral ones. What most of the state governments have done is that they have easily, they have developed this art of manipulating these rankings. For example, states like Andhra Pradesh and Telangana are always there in the top 5 in terms of ease of doing business index. But what is the amount of investment that is attracted? For example, Andhra Pradesh was at the second place or first place in our last year, and it has attracted only 250 crores of rupees of investment, which clearly shows that there is huge amount of difference between what is there in theory and what is in reality. So that is the reason why this is not what we call the kind of reform that should be implemented. This is what we suggest. Next important thing is that good governance. We must ensure good governance. At the end of the day, you will have both the foreign and domestic investors coming to your country only when you are able to ensure efficient, accountable, transparent administrative systems. This is what we call non-negotiable when we want this industrial sector development in the long term. We must end this crony capitalism. We must eliminate systematic corruption. We must prevent the emergence of monopolies. We must ensure better competition in the markets. So these are all the solutions that we talk about to make our industrial sector great again. It is good to come out with these Atmanirbhar Bharat packages, which are really good. But at the end of the day, at the ground level, you have to implement many other reforms also. So this is about industrial sector. Today we did not get time to touch unemployment. No problem. Tomorrow we will take unemployment and other topics also. Right? Tomorrow we will be meeting at the same time at 11:30, and for 1 hour we will look at other topics also. Please remember, whatever we are discussing or what we have discussed is very important from your examination point of view. If you have any doubts, you can ask. Otherwise, we can end today's class. Any doubts you can ask. You can take 1 minute and ask doubts. Otherwise, we can meet tomorrow at the same time. Okay, then if that is the case, tomorrow we will meet and